Hi, my name is Dwayne Gathers, and welcome to Civitas LA, where we feature diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. Each week, we hear from, learn from, and are inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward in making Los Angeles a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now more than ever, we aim to elevate civic discourse, foster community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across the greater Los Angeles region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in that conversation. The creative community is increasingly being priced out of our larger cities as costs rise, especially for workspace and housing, and insufficient numbers of affordable units being developed. And we learned about this affordability issue from a previous episode with Gustavo Herrera, Executive Director of Arts for Los Angeles. So we would always appreciate you going back to episode 11 if you have time. However, furthering our spotlight on this important issue, we're delighted to have with us today Michael Bohn of Studio 111, which through a collaborative effort spearheaded the first adaptive reuse project of its kind in Orange County, California, resulting in the Santa Ana Arts Collective. In creating this new community of affordable housing for artists and other creatives, the Santa Ana Arts Collective represents the culmination of an innovative effort to transform a 1960s office building into a thriving new community featuring 58-unit affordable housing complex, including 10 new affordable townhomes that replaced a former parking lot. And this office building itself was transformed into studios and 1 and 2 and 3 bedrooms, apartments, live-work lofts, with additional amenities including ground floor art gallery, studios, and music rooms. Wow. So we're really delighted to have Michael Bohn calling in this evening so we can learn more about this innovative project, discuss lessons learned, and if this represents a trend we may see going forward. So Michael, welcome to Civitas LA.
Thank you, Dwayne. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're delighted to have you here on with us tonight. As we get started, we always like to start with a few warm-up questions. So share with our audience a bit about your background and give us a bit of overview of Studio 111.
Well, Studio 111 is an integrated practice of architecture, landscape, and urban design committed to repairing cities. We believe that our profession plays a crucial role in the making of cities and that we have a responsibility to craft our environment in ways that support our current and future collective well-being. Studio 111 finds ways to make cities more environmentally responsible, resilient, and prosperous while addressing livability and equity for all residents. Our work ranges in scales that include 300 square foot parklets that support outdoor dining for struggling restaurants during the pandemic, to large-scale, multi-block, mixed-use urban infill developments in the heart of downtown locales.
How did you get involved in design?
A little bit about me. I'm a Southern California native. I was born, raised, and educated in Southern California. And after gaining my degree in architecture, I decided to study art at the École des Beaux-Arts outside of Fontainebleau, France.
Oh, wow.
While studying there, I met some folks that were working through the British Institute and was hired by them to measure temples in India. And when I came back, I still wasn't really interested in working in an office yet, in a traditional office. So I worked for a contractor for a couple of years and really wanted to see how builders look at architects' drawings and how they really use them. And I have to say it was one of the best experiences I ever had in my career. And it's helped me all throughout my career working with various builders on projects.
Wow. So how long have you been at it?
Oh my gosh. You're going to age me now, but it's over 35 years.
That's wonderful.
And during that time, I've worked for various architectural firms and urban design firms, but they've all had a focus on either market rate housing, affordable housing, or homeless housing. So housing is really something I'm passionate about.
Well, you know, Michael, as we jump into learning more about the Santa Ana Arts Collective, I first wanted to say, you know, congratulations to you and your team, because something that was shared with me recently was that the Southern California Development Forum had their recent 2020 Design and Philanthropy Awards gathering, and we recognize that the Santa Ana Arts Collective project was an award winner in the category for adaptive reuse, renovation, historic preservation. So this is truly an exciting honor. So we're really excited for you guys and want to learn more about the project and the award.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a real honor to win that. And there was a lot of competition with projects that had bigger budgets than ours, and we received the highest accolades. So it means a lot to us and our team and even the residents that live in the development.
That's great. So tell us about the project, Santa Ana Arts Collective.
The project is located at 17th and Main, just north of downtown Santa Ana, and it's comprised of 58 units. When we started, the existing mid-century office building, which was completed in 1965 and designed by the firm Langdon Wilson, was considered obsolete. Most of the building was empty, the ground floor was completely empty, and it just didn't bring any life to the neighborhood. And in a way, it was an eyesore. And there were a lot of folks in the neighborhood that thought its time had just run out and it should be torn down. They were pleasantly surprised once we restored it. So we worked on the exterior structure, we cleaned it up, and we converted the building to accommodate 48 residential units. And because parking counts are much less for residential versus office, we were able to park all the residents in the subterranean garage and take the adjacent surface lot and convert that to 10 townhome and loft units.
Wow.
And those townhomes were arranged in a way to create a beautiful courtyard that serves as a top lot for the children that occupy the property.
Mm-hmm. So how did the project come about? How did you all get involved in this project? How did it come to you guys?
Oh boy, about 3 years ago, I got a call from Chris Maffris. He's the executive vice president of Meta Housing Corporation.
Okay.
And he said that they had opened escrow on this particular development, and he wanted to know if we thought it could be converted to housing. And so when we looked at the plans, we realized the floor plate was a good proportion. It worked very well for putting residential units in it. The structural systems were solid and didn't need a lot of work. It has great floor-to-ceiling glass in many areas and just lots of glass in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lot of parking. And unfortunately, form follows parking in these projects.
Okay.
So that's always one of the important components of getting a project to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, the project offers a wide range of amenities for the residents. Share what those are.
Well, first of all, it has the typical amenities that an affordable housing development typically has, and that includes offices for counseling and supportive uses. It has a community room, a tot lot, and community gardens. But aside from those, what makes it super unique is that it also has a makerspace for artists to work in, a dance studio, 2 music rooms, and a gallery for artists to show their work. So if an artist doesn't want to work in their space, which all of them have very tall ceilings and ample natural light, because their families are in there or they're distracted, they can come down to these other spaces on the ground level and create works of art there.
You know, there's such a demand for affordable living, all over our region. I'm curious to know, how artists found the property and how you vetted those who were able to access the units.
Well, the demand was amazing. Out of the 58 units that were available, there were 400 applicants.
Wow.
Before the project was even complete.
Wow.
And so it's always a challenging process to determine who is an artist and who is not an artist. And Meta Housing Corp does not get into that decision-making process. They hire local folks within the community to help determine who are appropriate artists for this development and vet in those terms. So it was immediately filled up before the project was even completed. And we could build dozens of these throughout Orange County, let alone the other counties, and fill them up immediately.
Right. Well, certainly, building affordable housing requires a lot of collaboration and partnership, just because it's always difficult to finance. And one of the things we always touch on here at Civitas LA is the role and value of collaboration and partnerships, particularly in housing. So share with us the team that came together to bring this project to fruition.
Sure. Well, first, as I mentioned earlier, Meta Housing Corporation and their expertise and passion to provide affordable housing with a artist preference um, was first and foremost in putting this together. This is the third artist colony we've done with them. We've
Okay.
completed one in Long Beach as well as in Glendale, both cities that are losing artists very quickly. So this is a way to allow artists to succeed and flourish and stay in place. The second party that was very instrumental in this was the city of Santa Ana. Judson Brown, the housing division manager, and Ali Peseshkapur with planning were really our city advocates. So while we were going through the process and bogged down in the bureaucracy, both of them stepped in and helped push this through in a timely manner so that we could meet our tax credit deadlines. We also had very experienced contractor and construction manager that had experience in adaptive reuse. So when the building was opened up and surprises came about, they did not focus on the negatives, but focused on solutions, and we moved very quickly forward and got the development done. We also had a lot of support from the community, and particularly the artist community. And again, artists, when they come into an area, they create a certain value and authenticity to a
Sure.
neighborhood that starts to increase property values. And the community here realized right away that this artist colony would in perpetuity allow artists to flourish here. And then I'd say last and certainly not least is just the team within my studio. I have a lot of talented, driven people that are passionate about affordable housing, and without their support, this project wouldn't have been as successful as it is.
Yeah, that's great. And you talked about the support that you got from the local government in Santa Ana. How does this project fit into some of their economic development goals and strategies? Particularly, a lot of communities are trying to foster a creative community because they do see the upside of having this particular community. And I know in Santa Ana there's something called the Main Street Cultural Corridor. So how does this tie into that?
Well, I see it as one of these pearls that make up a necklace, and our project is one of those pearls. But there are pearls that are already there, such as the Bowers Museum, the Orange County School of the Arts, and we're their campus architect as well, the Wooden Floor Dance Company, the Kidzeum, and the Discovery Cube. So this corridor has now this necklace of pearls that are art institutions that help draw people from outside the area. And if it wasn't for these art institutions, this would be a very difficult, struggling corridor. So it's really an interesting place to come. People go to one of these institutions, they see other institutions in the area, they'll grab lunch, and these institutions are really the lifeblood to this corridor.
No, that's great, and certainly in a post-COVID environment in 2021, we hopefully we can do an episode in Santa Ana with you and others who are driving this activity. So, how do you see this effort evolving over time, and what are some of the other opportunities in Santa Ana or other cities in Orange County for additional projects like this one?
Well, Santa Ana has a lot of mid-century buildings that are just not being utilized to their fullest potential in and around their downtown. We're already working on another one that's under construction, and we're working on a second one or I'm sorry, a third one that is in the planning stages. Unfortunately, both of these are for market rate housing. So
Okay.
developers are beginning to see that this area has some potential and are coming in, which will make it much more difficult for more affordable housing to come in.
Mhm.
But at least we got this one in with the 58 units.
Right. We try here at Civitas LA to sort of tie certain subjects across episodes. And, in this project, we're talking about adaptive reuse. And this was the first time this was done in Orange County. And it was sort of transformational for downtown Los Angeles. So I'm curious to know how it was to work with the city officials and their sort of accepting of this as a policy opportunity for them.
Actually, it was surprisingly easy. The city of Santa Ana did follow with their adaptive reuse ordinance, the one that was developed in downtown Los Angeles many years earlier, and they adjusted it to accommodate their specific needs. But by and large, it was very, very, very easy. The one area that we did have a bit of a struggle was parking. They were still requiring
Okay.
a very high amount of parking stalls per unit. It was almost 3 stalls per unit. And we were able to show them through some of our other developments that had already been completed that those projects with significantly less parking were doing fine. They weren't negatively impacting the neighborhood. And the city actually came around and agreed with us and granted us a modification for parking reduction.
Well, I think we always want to give a shout outs to city governments that want to work with the development community and are easy to work with. So a shout out to Santa Ana for sure. So I know adaptive reuse projects are very different from the market rate projects that you've done as well. So how are the practical differences in the approach that you take in doing one of these projects?
Well, a market rate project, particularly one that it starts from scratch, you really just clear the lot and you build from the ground up. And there aren't a lot of surprises once the construction starts. With adaptive reuse projects, there's inherently challenges built into them, and you need to discover them.
Okay.
And what we like to do is strip the building down to its bare bones, to what we want to keep, open it up so that we understand what those challenges are. And in this particular case, we were able to do that on the ground floor and the top floor, but the two middle floors, we weren't able to do so because there were some lingering tenants still left. So when we started construction, we made all of our assumptions about the top floor and the bottom floor. However, once we opened up the second and third floor, there were some large cracks along
Okay.
the floor line,
Okay.
and we had to backpedal and quickly stiffen the building and strengthen the core of the building so that the building would be much stiffer and not crack further in the future. So my advice is to really understand what the building is about, open it up as soon as you can, and deal with those issues immediately.
And Michael, I'm sure particularly for downtown Los Angeles and here as well. A lot of these adaptive reuse projects are generally aimed at converting what might be considered Class B or Class C buildings. And I'm just wondering again, as you strip these buildings down to figure out how you move forward, you've got to meet more stringent California codes around seismic. So what does that do in terms of time and costs for these particular projects?
Well, we want to know what those issues are as soon as we can. In this particular case, when we had to stiffen the building, we literally had to think of a square and plan going all the way up of solid concrete. We had to remove the footing itself and build, instead of, I think there was a 36-inch footing down below, we had to build a 5-foot deep footing.
Wow.
So each one of these has got its own unique challenges and characteristics, and you need to address them in a unique way, in a creative way, to solve those in a cost-effective way as well.
Sure. So do you see more of these projects being done in Santa Ana and elsewhere? You've mentioned Long Beach. You've mentioned Glendale. Do you see this trend continuing?
Other than the two that we're working on right now in Santa Ana, we have many in Long Beach, and I do think this trend will continue. Since the pandemic started, about 2.7 million square feet of office space has become available in LA County. And whereas before, as you mentioned, we were looking at Class B or Class C buildings, now we're looking at more Class B buildings that are newer, maybe they were built in the 70s and 80s, because they're just having a harder time to rent them out. And I think this is where affordable housing developers might have a leg up on the market rate folks. They could get in there, provide affordable housing before the competition for market rate housing comes in.
Sure. Well, I was going to say, given that you've taken an underutilized 1960s building to develop this project, I'm wondering if you do see a reduced demand for traditional office space post COVID-19, and do you see more adaptive reuse projects taking place?
I do. I do, not only for affordable housing, but market rate housing, for creative office versus traditional office.
Mm-hmm.
These older buildings really do need to evolve, and I would hope that demolition is of the last resort, because the greenest building is the one you save and not the one that you tear down to build a new building with.
Right. No, that's great. This is a project that's aimed at the creative community, and the creative community obviously is always looking for more affordability. Do you see projects like this happening in some of these cities beyond Los Angeles? And might there be some sort of migration, would you say, of the creative arts community to these other cities?
Well, I can speak for the Santa Ana Arts Collective. Most of the artists actually came from Santa Ana,
Okay.
but we had quite a few coming from local coastal Orange County cities where land prices and rents were just going through the roof. And they wanted to stay in Orange County, and this became an option for them. We aren't stealing any artists from LA yet, but
Okay.
we are getting a few from the Inland Empire as well. So, like I mentioned earlier, there were 400 folks that were interested in
Yep.
moving here, so there is a great demand for this type of space.
Well, I imagine there could be some lessons learned, certainly for other local officials, throughout the 88 cities that make up Los Angeles County that want to stimulate a creative community by sort of creating space for their own local artist community.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of benefits to a development like this. Obviously, it provides affordable housing, and it does provide artists to invigorate an area,
Hmm.
but it also keeps history in place. It keeps continuity of larger developments that maybe have become obsolete but become re-energized with a new use. So there's a sense of keeping culture and buildings of a certain era within our cities as opposed to in the past demolishing them. There's also just a lot of community benefits. There are um, certain programs like the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program that provides funding to promote affordable housing with high quality transportation investments to foster healthy and well connected communities.
Hmm.
So, in this particular case, we were able to build off site bulb outs to reduce crossing times for pedestrians over busy streets. We were able to invest in a dedicated bike lane from our development to downtown Santa Ana so that folks not only within our development could safely bicycle downtown, but all the folks along that bike path could use it as well.
No, that's great. So, you know, Michael, this has been a great conversation, and I just want to go back again to, the recognition of your work through this award because, in that adaptive reuse, renovation, historic preservation category, the words that I'll share with our audience said this category celebrates those who have revitalized the discarded and forgotten into a feature within the fabric of our cities. A key factor in land conservation and the reduction of urban sprawl is how we reimagine our older sites and existing structures. Preservation provides an embodiment, our shared history, while creating a sense of place and solving some of our toughest societal dilemma. With so many long-standing structures in Southern California, it stands to reason that many of these historic landmarks can find new life and purpose through adaptive reuse. That's just really, really powerful, and you are recognized in the category of outstanding projects throughout the region. So, what does this mean for your team, and what interesting projects do you all have going forward that you can share with us?
Well, we were absolutely honored to gain that award. And some of the other projects that we're looking at is the idea of modular housing. Just housing in general is so expensive to build it in Southern California and more throughout the country. And so we have under construction our first modular shipping container development that is under construction.
Can you
Um,
share what city that's in?
that one is in South Los Angeles,
Okay.
and we're very excited. It actually won a challenge award from the mayor's office to help finance it, and we're excited because we do want to find other ways of building housing that can not only be cheaper to build but faster to build, because if you can build it faster you can house people quicker, and the shorter the construction time the more economical it is. At the same time, we also have three developments on the board that are utilizing steel modular. So the components will be built off-site and then delivered to the site and erected in that manner. So the site work can be done at the same time as the modules are being built off-site, and
Hmm.
that again reduces time and will save a little bit of money as
Yeah.
well.
And are planning codes keeping up with this change? Are existing planning codes helping or hindering this sort of creativity and innovation that you're bringing to the market?
Well, for us, We try to work with the state. So these modular
Okay.
components are built off-site. They gain state approval, and that way local jurisdictions don't have to meddle in the part
Okay.
of the
Okay.
housing.
Okay.
They'll look at the site plans, but they really have no jurisdiction for the modules themselves. And that's the trick for us to get these things approved relatively quickly.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You know, Michael, this has been a great conversation, and we're really excited to learn about the work that you all are doing, and you've given us some food for thought because, we would like to come down to Santa Ana in 2021 and actually, see the project on site and talk to officials down there, but also see some of the work that you're doing in Long Beach to create these really exciting projects. So this has been a great conversation. We applaud the work that you're doing and that your team is doing to bring affordable housing, not only just to creatives, but also to Southern California. Before we move from this conversation, Michael, we always like to have just a lightning round of questions to have our guests share a little bit about themselves and their Los Angeles so that our listeners can get the inside scoop on what our civic leaders do and where they play when they're not building a better tomorrow. So if you'll indulge us with a few lightning round questions, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. So where are you from originally?
Huntington Park, California.
Okay. Which neighborhood do you live in currently?
Belmont Heights in the city of Long Beach.
Long Beach. Okay. Mobility is always a big thing in Southern California. Uber, Lyft, Yellow Cab, bike, bus, walk, metro, or scooter?
Bike, walk, and Uber.
And Uber. Okay. Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, or Hulu?
Netflix.
Favorite LA restaurant or favorite Long Beach restaurant since you're down in Long Beach?
Well, I'd say Nick's on second, which is in walking distance from my house. And I actually have a favorite in Santa Ana, which is Playground 1.9. We'll have to meet down there in the future.
Absolutely. Lakers or Clippers?
Lakers,
Rams or Chargers?
Rams,
Dodgers, Angels?
Dodgers.
Favorite place in Southern California to take a visitor?
I love taking visitors up to the Hollywood sign by foot, hiking up the hill.
Okay. And you do know that they've turned off all sort of apps to guide you there because the neighbors don't want people like you traipsing through their neighborhood. Favorite park in the region?
I like all our beaches.
Okay. Outstanding. And final question, Bruins or Trojans?
The Bruins, though I know the statement will cost me clients.
We will edit that out then. Michael, this dialogue has been great, and I appreciate your time, and we all appreciate your service to community. Hopefully we can have you and your team on again to discuss the progress that you're making and discuss future projects that you're working on throughout our region. So thank you so much for being with us this evening. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dwayne. I'm a big fan of yours as well.
Well, thank you. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we thank you for joining us this year as we launch Civitas LA. This marks our last full episode of 2020 as we take a short break and return on January 6, 2021. In the interim, stay tuned. For those who've listened closely, we hope you've enjoyed not only the conversations, but also the fun lightning rounds where we get to know more about our guests and their Los Angeles. Join us for a series of short episodes during the holidays where we will be releasing our first ever Civitas LA Best Of lists, where these great civic leaders share with you, in their own words, their favorite restaurants, favorite places to take visitors, and their favorite parks in our region. And as a new podcast, we are extremely grateful for the early support for this important work. So we want to thank Community Build for their support, One Nation's Legacy LLC, and Gather Strategies. Don't forget to listen, rate, review, and share. And please join in these great conversations. We wish you all a joyful holiday season, and we look forward to working with you to build a stronger Los Angeles in the year ahead. Until we meet again, stay strong, get involved. To learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com. And if you do have time, we hope you also take our end-of-year listener survey to give us feedback on how we can improve in the year ahead. And also, please connect with us on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and Twitter at Civitas_LA. We appreciate you listening, and we hope you'll share this with others. Stay Stay strong, get involved, and stay safe.